Hi everyone. This is actually not a live Facebook video, but it's a video I've put up on Facebook. And the reason I've done it is that I just did the Facebook Live and the sound went and it froze and people were getting deafened by a high-pitched squeal. Sincere apologies. I think it's my internet, which, as I said at the beginning of that one, has not been a good internet for the past week, and I was hopeful it would be okay. So I'm going to do this and upload it so you can listen to it without being deafened, basically. It'll be much the same, but maybe not exactly the same. But okay, so my name's Kathy Price. Anybody who has not met me before, my work is Point of Balance, and there's two parts to it. One is Point of Balance session, which can be distance, in person, or what I call a presence session, and that is all about helping your system find its way back into balance and so health. And I can work with people, I work with horses, dogs, cats, and I work all over the world. And now I'm blessed to say 4 different continents. So that's what my work is about as far as the sessions are concerned. And then I do something called the Awakening, and that is a once in the lifetime experience. You only ever do it once, and it's about enhancing your connection to the knowledge of the universe. And as I shall say later in this video, that knowledge is inside us as much as it is outside us, but I'll get into that in a little while. If anybody wants to know more about my work, I did a Facebook Live that actually worked on the 30th of January, and that is on my website, it's on my YouTube channel, and it's also on my Facebook page. So do go and have a look at that. That'll give you an insight into, my work in more depth. So this video is about energy and connection. Okay, they are my 2 favorite words, and I've always said we are all energy and we're all connected. And I obviously have learnt that from somewhere. I haven't done the experiments to work that out. But the other day, through a series of synchronicities, I happened upon a video called The Wisdom of the Universe. Oh my goodness. It's about a physicist called Nassim Haramein, and I'll put the link below this video. And he basically, as a child, was dyslexic, well, probably still is dyslexic, but so he didn't get on in school, but he was totally fascinated by nature. And he could see patterns in nature, and they fascinated him so that he wanted to study how it was all connected. And basically that's what led him to becoming a physicist. It took a few years, but he got there. And the other thing that he studied was that when you look at some of the physics equations, like E equals mc squared, that famous equation, it talks of the field or the ether, but it never describes it. It doesn't say what it is or what it's made of. And he wanted to know those facts. It must be something, and that what drove him to find, to dive into quantum physics, basically. I really like Nassim Haramein because, firstly, he has a great sense of humour. He likes to laugh and he likes to have a joke. He doesn't take himself too seriously. And he, as far as I can see, his first discovery was in 2012. And I've watched a few videos and nothing has changed. A lot of the words he uses are the same. And on one hand, you might say, well, he hasn't advanced. But I like that because it shows that what he found in the first instance is the truth, and he hasn't needed to change it. So, yeah, that's why I've delved into him. But the main thing was that when I started watching that first video, I believe one of the first things he says is we are all energy and we're all connected. And it was like, yes, this is my video. Great, brilliant. So the other thing that is very powerful about his maths is that his maths can link a proton an exploration of the proton into the radius of the proton, say, to the mass of a black hole. So you can go from the quantum to the massive, and his maths applies to both. So that's why it's the unified field theory. And he talks of how everything is connected and everything is energy, and his discovery of something called the Planck, which are particles, Planck length, which are tiny grains, as he describes it, of electromagnetic frequency in the field. And they're so small. He gives analogies, and I mean, they're minute. That's why if you move your hands through the air, you can't feel them, because they're just so small. But they are the thing that connect everything. And one of the brilliant things he does is he uses a bath of water as an analogy for the universe, and through that he also describes how this vacuum fluctuating field, whichever, is actually how matter is formed. So if you imagine a bath of water with the plug-in, water's there, it's still, and it's, if you like, chaotic. There is no order. The particles going anywhere. Now, if you pull the plug out, what happens is that water becomes ordered and starts to circulate, spiral down the plug hole. So it becomes ordered, it becomes coherent, and it becomes more dense. And that is his theory, which seems to be backed up by the maths, of what matter, us, is. It's vibrating, circulating energy, which is all to do with gravitational effect, which beyond me. But that is when this vacuum field, fluctuation field, becomes ordered and starts spinning. That's when it produces matter. And the beauty of this for me is it shows how the water in the bath is basically drawing the molecules from the bath to go down the plug hole and then come out the other end. And that's such a great analogy of how we, as the matter, the bit going down the plug hole, draws information from the bath, bringing the molecules, but information, you could say. It then goes down the plug hole and it can be changed. That's where, as we are here present as matter, we experience. So we put information back into that field, so into the water, if you like. And then when the water comes out of the drain at the other end, it contains that extra information. So we have informed the universe. We've informed the field. So not only do we experience the field, we inform it as well. So his vacuum fluctuation field, filled with these billions of particles, and the Planck length of these particles is the smallest oscillation possible in the electromagnetic field. He's, as I've said before, we are full of space. An atom is 99.99999% space. And his analogy is that if you had a molecule of diamond, which is, a diamond, if you like, which is the most dense, one of the most dense substances on the planet, if one atom of the diamond was the size of an orange, the next atom would be 2 football fields away. So you'd have this massive amount of space, and we are space. And what we are filled with in that space is this vacuum fluctuation field, which contains all the information. So what you can see is that there's a constant backwards and forwards of this information between ourselves, our experience feeding that information, and us picking up that information from the field. So consciousness has this exchange of information, and our brain is in fact the translator of that information. Our brain, consciousness does not make our brain. Our brain is there because of consciousness, in the fact that it is the antenna by which we receive the information. So consciousness is there, but we need our brain to actually access that consciousness. It's not the other, because some people say it's the other way around, but it isn't. And that's how we have this constant feedback between the atoms within ourselves and everything else, and the vacuum field. So that's how basically the universe learns about itself, which is a really big thought, isn't it? I know my brain sometimes struggles with that one. So if you think about religions, a lot of the teachings about going inwards, to find the knowledge, to seek the knowledge, go inwards. And this ties in with Haremind's description of a holographic universe. His work is about the fact that every proton contains the full information of the universe. So what's out there is in here. So when we go in, we can learn. And it's interesting how a lot of ancient cultures and religions are all about going inwards. The meditations about going inside. And it's almost like that was a known fact, that the information you require, you don't have to look out there. You have, it's inside you. So he's got a wonderful saying which says, spirituality is science we have never understood before. I just, that really, I just like that a lot. So that is a tie-in between spirituality and science, because here we have the spirituality, which is the looking inside, the meditation, the religions that say the answers are in there, and now we have the science saying actually that's right, it's a holographic universe. Every proton within your body contains the full information that is out there in the universe. Massive, I know. And the other thing that I studied a bit of this subject over the past couple of weeks, studied inverted commas, watched various things, but the universe, are the universe experiencing itself from a relative viewpoint. And what that means is that we are all individuals, and each individual sees the universe in their own way. So no two people can have exactly the same view of the universe. Because if I'm stood here, if there's a row of us stood here looking at a tree, the angle we're looking at the tree is going to be different from each person. So we are not seeing the same thing. We are not experiencing the universe in the same way. You'd have to have somebody stood inside you looking out through your eyes to see the tree in the same place, and that just doesn't happen. So if you think that we are informing the universe, all of our outlooks on that tree, all of our experiencing of that tree goes back into that holographic field, informs the universe, adds to that information. And that's what some religions are all about, is the fact that we are here experiencing a physical form, which then feeds into the universe, into the consciousness of the universe. Massive subject. I'm not going to get into religion, don't go there, but it's the science side of it, about the energy and connection, which is the bit that fascinates me about this. So how do I help? How can my work of Point of Balance actually help? Well, all our cells, through the protons, are connected to the complete information of the universe. They contain the complete energy of the universe. And if you think in any second, any billionth of a second, there's a mass of reactions going on from quantum level to molecular level. And isn't it amazing the intelligence that must be there to put all of those reactions in the right place at the right time, to control them? And so if you think, if one of those reactions is not quite right, that's how technically illness can occur. So I saw a statement that said how if say for instance we had a growth on the bowel, how to get rid of that as such. Now, our experience, our memory within space, within this universe, will have been of having the reaction that created the tumour. And so what we need to do to get rid of the tumour is to change the reaction, if you like, so the tumour no longer exists. And you've got to remember that all of our cells are being replaced all of the time. Your whole organs take a longer time to completely renew, but at the quantum level and at the molecular level, there are a lot of reactions that are going on every day. So some cells only exist for a few minutes or a few hours, and others for longer. But we have this constant renewal. So if we can access the information, that means that we renew with a healthy cell. That means we can get rid of the tumour. Now, some people might say that's rather fantastical and doesn't work, but it isn't, because if you think of the placebo effect, where the body believes it's been given something that will cure it, it cures it. Every drug has to go through a trial to get rid of that placebo effect. So it's a known phenomena, if you like, that we can heal ourselves with no outside intervention at all. Spontaneous remission is the other one, where people are at death's door from a cancer, and for no reason the doctors can fathom, i.e. no medical reason, they haven't changed procedure, they haven't changed drugs, the person recovers usually quite quickly. And as I've said before in one of my talks, Anita Morjani's book, Dying to Be Me, illustrates this beautifully. And she's also on one of the Anthony Chain, Chene, Chain videos on YouTube. I can't remember which one it is, but it might be near-death experience, I'm not sure. But she talks about her experience of how one day she was given 4 hours to live or something. She left her body. She could hear conversations, which technically, if she was still there lying in her body, she wouldn't be able to, but she was out. And then she tells the story, but she basically went back and she was healed. So it does happen. So my work, I see as a way of facilitating the body to choose which reaction it needs to have a healthy body. If we've gone right down to quantum level here, where all of the information is still within every proton, if I facilitate, I'm a satellite, I use all these different words, but if somehow my work with a system, be it a person or an animal, can help them choose the right reaction to occur, and I can't dictate anything. It's all about facilitating, about making it easier for them to make the decision. But I don't know which decision it is that they should take. They do, their system does, they have that knowledge. The universal knowledge is there. But I don't. But it is about facilitating that choice so that they can then get rid of the tumour by changing the reaction that's actually occurring there. So I'm reminding it how to find its way back to health. And it's not only in an illness, because some people think that my work is just about if I'm ill, or injured. But obviously we have the emotional side of it as well. So it can also help the body choose to move out of fight or flight, the stressful, release that, and move into parasympathetic, which is growth and repair. And I mean, we've got vagal nerve theory as well, but it's no need to go there, in the sense that it's just a movement away from stress and back into health and no stress, parasympathetic, where we can repair ourselves and grow. And it's been shown that, I think it's with when we have negative emotions, there's something like 1,200 negative reactions occur, biochemical reactions, due to that emotion. which potentially can harm the body. Whereas if we go into a positive frame of mind through meditation or just being happy, sending out love, 1400 positive emotions, positive reactions occur, which obviously help the body. It boosts the immune system. Studies have been done on IgGs and IgAs, the immunoglobulins, which are part of the immune system. And the changes are amazing just through short meditation and stepping into the place of peace and health and happiness. So again, my work is about helping your system go to that healthy place. I can't make it, but I can facilitate it because your system knows where that place is. So that's the point of balance. The other thing I do is called the awakening, and this is a once in a lifetime experience, for want of a better word, and it's all about enhancing your connection to that information, which is within and without. So, if we're looking that every proton in your body contains all of that information, it's about you having an enhanced connection to that information so you can make considered choices. It can help you change job, choose your jobs, increase your potential, bring you happiness. There's synchronicities start happening because you're on that easy path and you've accessed that information that is about you moving into the place of health and happiness, peace and potential, is the way I put it. But that's the awakening, and that's enhancing your connection to the information of the universe, which is where we get all our ideas, ways to move forward. So I always think about the information we had, and so if the connection we had. So if you think about the ancient indigenous tribes and races, which we still have some here, thank goodness, but obviously unfortunately many have disappeared, they knew this inherently. That's the way their cultures work. Of late I've seen various references to the Bushmen of the Kalahari and how they hunt by talking to the animal they wish to hunt, and almost an agreement being made, so the animal presents itself, they get their food. But that's a connection through the universe, through this information, which they accept as every day. And it's the same as they know which plants to eat and which not to eat. And you could say, yeah, well, that's information being passed down through the eons. But where did it come from in the start? If you think of human beings evolving into a land that was covered in vegetation, how did they know which plants would feed, which would heal and which would kill, unless there was some innate connection that they could pick that up? So I think, it's the South American tribes, I think it is, where and peoples, they making ayahuasca, they say they know which plants to use because they ask them. I mean, there's millions of combinations, especially in a rainforest, but they found the specific two that would take them to the other world, the hallucinogenic. Others could have killed them. And they said they asked the plants. So for us, it's fantastic. How can you ask a plant? But that innate connection is there, and it's being used by these ancient people. They know about it. I know there's a story of a friend of mine. Her husband was filming in, I think it was Papua New Guinea or somewhere, but in the dense rainforest with a tribe. And they went out on a hunt, and they were just in dense forests. There was no sunlight. They couldn't, see the sun to navigate off that. And they were going round for hours on end, and then they ended back up at the village. And my friend's husband said, oh, how on earth did they find their way back? And so the translator sort of asked the tribesmen, and they said, well, we asked the animals. And, you know, it was sort of, you talk to the animals? And they went, well, yes, don't you? Very surprised that they couldn't. And then the tribesman actually turned to the children and said, he doesn't talk to the animals. So as much as we look at them and go, they talk to the animals, it was the other way around, because it was such an innate part of their experience, the connection with the natural world. And that's what I think we've lost. But I think the skills are still out there. And we, you know, well, they obviously are. These people, for me, I've often said that the Aboriginal tribes all around the world are the most advanced, because they still have that connection to the natural world and they still live in balance with it. So I think we've lost a connection in some ways due to science, because science has evolved over however many 100 years, where if you can't explain it, replicate it and measure it, it doesn't exist. And we have to realize that our method of measurement is so limited. You know, we only see a tiny part of the electromagnetic frequencies. We can only measure a tiny part. It's much bigger. But because we can't see it, feel it, touch it, it doesn't exist. And there's a wonderful story that when the Wright brothers first flew a plane, for years afterwards, there were physicists writing papers to prove that it was physically not possible for that plane to actually leave the ground and fly, even though it had. And they were maintaining it was a hoax, because their physics would not allow that to happen, yet in reality it had already happened. And I think that's quite a common problem with science. Epigenetics was the same. Bruce Lipton found it, discovered this process which he called epigenetics, the effect of the environment on the expression of the gene, back in the 70s. And he was called a heretic because it was totally against the current thinking at that moment, where the genes were the determining factor. If you had that gene, that was it. Whereas he was showing the environment actually affects how the gene is expressed. And it took 30 years before it became really accepted. And I mean, now it's taught in schools. So Harriman is finding the same thing, as he says. There's naysayers out there. And he said, they throw tomatoes at me. He said, but being Italian, I know what to do with the rotten tomatoes. So that's why I like his sense of humour as well. So, within our society, especially Western society, there's great division that we go to separate ways. Recently we've had the interview with Meghan and Harry, and looking on Facebook, the divisiveness that's come out of that, the name calling, the judgment, the anger. And I think what we've got to realise is that when that strong emotion, or any emotion really, and it can be love as much as it's anger, is out there, we produce it, it goes into the field. It informs the field. So we are affecting the field. And that's been proven that human emotion can affect the field with random number generators, that you can pluck someone off the street. It doesn't have to be a trained meditator or anything like that, and ask them to do something to change a randomly generated pattern, and they can. And it's shown by HeartMath with the random number generators, yes, I think they're called that, situated all around the world, that are constantly giving out random noughts and ones. And what they found when there's a worldwide emotional incident that produces a lot of emotions, such as the death of Princess Diana, a war, the tsunami, the number generators go from random to ordered. And the only thing that's affecting that is human emotion. And so now we can see that human emotion is going out into the field, this universal fluctuation field, and that is affecting the way that these numbers are generated. So we've got to realize that what we do and what we say, what we feel, is going out into the field and affecting it positively or negatively. But more than that, if we accept that the universe is a holographic field, which means that every proton in our body contains all the information of the field, when we're angry at somebody over there, that anger is affecting us, because we're informing the field, we're sending that information into the field, and we are part of that field. That field is within us, that information is within us in totality, as much as it is out there. And conversely, obviously, we send love out to somebody, we're loving ourselves. And that love is informing the field. And obviously, I know which one I would rather have. So the next question is, how do we get that connection back? And my feeling is that horses, this is my sphere of experience. Okay, I'm not going to say there aren't other things going on out there, but my experience is with horses. And as anybody who's in the groups that I'm in will know, that there is so much work going on where people are realizing how delicate the connection can be with their horse. I'll use that word in the sense that they sit in a quiet emotion, they sit with a clear thought, and the horse picks that thoughts up and reacts accordingly. Day after day, there are so many posts now about this woo-woo effect. And I know that if you try and somebody once said about the woo-woo being in the quantum field, and there were some quite strong reactions against quantum being used in the same sentence as woo-woo, because they were saying people don't understand quantum mechanics, it's not about that. But the more we're going into this, I believe it is, that there is more. This is what the woo effect, the bit that we can't explain, is about. It's about our connection through this field. It's about this universal fluctuation field where all of the information is out there and in here. And so when we put that emotion out to the horse, we're putting it into the field, and the horse is full of that field as much as we are. It's full of protons. So it picks that information up. We're looking at the work of Warwick Schiller, Susan Fay, Maddie Shambo, Carrie Lake. I mean, they're just a few names off the top of my head, and I know there are more out there, and I know there's people working, in different sort of spheres of this work, but that's just what I'm thinking with the connection with the horses. So they're teaching us about this connection. And what we've got to realise is that if we can cultivate that connection with the horse, it's there between us. The only thing that's stopping us is this, in the sense that we don't believe it can happen. But why not? If a horse can pick up our emotion and our thoughts, where we are actually asking it to do something and it does it, why can't that happen between people? And even if you think, well, no, it can't, that the picture side of stuff may not work, I don't know. The emotion side does. We know we have this huge heart field going out where we are connected in an electromagnetic frequency from our heart. So there is the connection, and we've got to realise it's what we're putting out into that connection that is informing the field and changing the field. And I personally would like it to be changed with positive emotions such as happiness and love rather than anger and hate. And remember that every time we put those out there, whether they're negative or positive, we're putting them into ourselves as much. So again, my work is about enhancing that connection, whether for the system I'm working with to connect to the beneficial reaction within its own body, its own system, so that it heals itself, it comes back into balance at every level, whether the emotion, physical, spiritual, mental, balance at all of those levels is health. So that's what my work is about on the one side. And then it's also about, with the awakening, the connection to the information. And there's a crossover with both. A point of balance session will aid connection as much as an awakening session can give healing. But they have two separate ways of being carried out, and two separate, what would you say, reasons. I'll use that word. One is more about bringing into balance, and it's very free form, and the other is quite structured about enhancing connection. Now, I wanted to end with crave your indulgence and read an email I had the other day, because I think it illustrates beautifully so many different parts of my work. And basically it was, I carried out a session, I think last week, on a horse called Russ, who lives somewhere in Washington State around Seattle way. I don't know exactly. And the lady that asked me to do the session, Vicky, she doesn't own the horse, but she works with him on a regular basis and has done for some months, so she knows him very well. And she asked me to do the session with him. So this is the email she sent me when she went to see Russ after he'd had his session. It says, "Hi, just a quick note. I saw Russ yesterday for the first time since his point of balance session on Thursday. I noticed some differences. I've been working with him once a week since September at a nearby barn. He has been slow to trust, nervous, wide-eyed, unblinking and worried. We've definitely made some progress since September, but it's been slow going. I didn't really know what to expect yesterday. I tried not to have any expectations. Our sessions are normally at liberty groundwork throughout. His choice where to go and what to do in the arena. What I did notice. His head stayed lower and more relaxed longer than it normally does. His eyes were softer. I noticed him licking and chewing during our session that I've never noticed before. His movement was lighter and quicker, less plodding and resigned energy. The big thing is, traditionally, he's been terrified of the lunge whip. Nobody at my barn has ever used it on him with a fearful, dominating energy. In fact, nobody's ever used it on him at all because he's been so scared. If it was even picked up, he was gone. So this is something from his past life, something, he's experienced before. He has improved his tolerance since September, but still worried eyes and ears. Yesterday, not only did he have no concerns about it, he started nibbling on it, ears forward and curious. It's hard to describe, but that was a huge change for Russ. It was like he let the lunge whip memory in his body go. Love that. It wasn't threatening to him anymore. At the end of our session, I was putting on his blanket, which normally he moves away from, but not this time. And he mischievously stole a carrot from my back pocket, which he's never done before. And he looked quite pleased with himself as he was munching. I wanted to write to let you know this news and thank you. It was pretty cool to see such a relaxed horse yesterday. He's still very much Russ, but a lighter, more relaxed version. I think you helped him release and move some stuck energy that has allowed his authentic self to emerge to take a look at the world with fresh eyes. I mean, how cool is that? To get that and to be able, that's what my work's about. It's to try and enable the system to move back to balance. And Russ didn't know who I was, where I was, what I was doing, but he picked up that facilitating energy and he moved out of stress and into a peaceful way. And as Vicky says so beautifully, where he said he released that energy. He let the lunge whip memory in his body go. I just love that sentence because that's what it's all about, letting go of basically the shit that, we tend to hold on to. But yeah, so thank you for indulging me. reading that one out, but I just thought it was a lovely example of not getting rid of an illness, working with a horse that has no idea what's going on, and showing the potential of what can happen. So if you're interested in any more of my work or finding out more, it's my website is www.kathyprice.co.uk. My email is info@kathyprice.co.uk. I'm on Facebook on my Point of Balance page and my personal page, and you can get through, contact me through Messenger through that as well. I've got videos up on my YouTube channel, short ones, slightly longer ones. My previous Facebook session, which actually taped perfectly the first time, is up there as well. So I just want to thank you for watching this, and thank everybody who did join me on the Facebook Live and then got deafened. I apologise for that. So I'll post this up, and just sending you lots of love and lots of happiness, and hopefully speak to you soon. Take care.